Okay, thank you everyone for coming. My name is Cheryl Kraus. I am part of California University of Pennsylvania. I'm a doctoral candidate in their Department of Exercise Science and Sports Studies. This is my teaching artifact. We're going to be talking about gap year, or also refer to it as gap time, depending on the time frame in which you take. So gap year, a burnout prevention model for students. So the overview, what is gap time? We're going to talk about that, where to find information, what are the benefits, and then we'll end with a panel discussion from some current students, and they can talk about their time as well. The rationale for gap time, it's due to a bunch of different things and it's very individual. There may be ineffective stress reduction modalities that are currently being employed in school, in your classes, or at home, trying to get your stress level down to a minimal amount. And maybe if they've reached chronic proportions, you need to step back and step out of school for a moment in time, or reevaluate your situation and see if you're aligned where you need to be. You may find that you have decreased motivation, might be another reason or rationale for gap time. Or maybe you just know the burnout is coming. You just need to take a semester off, a year off, whatever it might be, to regroup. Over 65% of matriculated medical students take gap time due to chronic stress. This is from the Association of the American Medical Colleges and Rashid and Kibble in 2021. This is at the forefront of the contemporary research diving into burnout, chronic stress. And what we're seeing is a huge number of students are taking that time, as well they should, if they need to regroup and figure out where they need to be and take that downtime.
Okay, how many times did you take the MCAT, and if you took a gap year, how many?
I took the MCAT twice, and I took 2 gap years.
Okay.
I took it once, and my gap year was 1 year.
Okay, bye.
Took it 3 times and took 2 gap years.
Wow.
I took the MCAT twice and I took 1 gap year.
Bad.
2 years off, and I took the MCAT twice.
1, and I didn't take a gap year. I came straight from undergrad.
Okay.
Took the MCAT twice, and then after undergrad, I went to grad school, so that was 2 years, and then got to med school after that.
Period.
I only took the MCAT once, and I just graduated in May 2021, so I didn't take a gap
Oh, she's stunning on us.
I took the MCAT 3 times,
Okay.
and then gap year, I graduated in 2017, and I started my master's program in 2020, so I guess 3.
I took the MCAT 3 times, got it scored once, and took 3 gap years.
So I took the MCAT 4 times, and I took 1 year for grad school, 1 year was again.
Okay, Beth, what did you know?
Okay, 1, and then 0, but then I got sick, so I had to take a year off.
I took the MCAT once, and I had 3 gap years.
So this was just a TikTok that I found just yesterday online that was discussing the gap time that medical students are taking. Specifically in my research for my doctorate, I'm currently focusing on medical students just because that's where a lot of the information is found, just with their high rates of stress and burnout. But this applies to any college program, so don't think that it doesn't apply to you because you're not a medical student. We're all students and we're all stressed, so we're feeling it. So gap time is unique to each individual, and it's referred to as anything from a gap semester to a gap year. So Ines is more used to, probably in her culture, take a whole gap year to regroup, but gap time can be as little as a couple weeks to a couple of years. And people can do anything from structured activities, maybe they want to go travel, maybe they want to learn a foreign language, an internship, maybe to work a little bit, see if you like the field that you're looking into. And then the experience is, again, very individual. And I'm so glad to have the panel today so that they can speak on their specific experience and what brought them to seek out gap time. And then the results, again, very individual. used to, in the States, there used to be a stigma attached to gap time. And if you took time off from your studies, you might lose your motivation and you might not want to come back to school. And what the research is saying is that's not true. And so another reason I'm doing this as my focus is because I think it's really important for students to step forward, say, I need some help, I need some time off, and take that. And they need the support of friends, family, and their schools to be able to do that effectively. Where might you learn about gap time? Totally depends. The majority of it is going to come from your cultural norms. What is the the understanding of gap time in your culture, in your group of friends, your family. You can find online resources. Very little I found in my research actually comes from the educational settings. They don't often come to you and say, hey, this is available. It's more you have to seek it out and find it yourself. So the panel can talk on each of their points on that as well later. So just a side-by-side comparison in the States, the deferral rate, again, I focused on medical students, about only 3% take a deferral rate. And the TikTok that we saw, identified how many different gap years, gap times these medical students took. And they're still back at it, and they're, excited in their program. They just take a step back, readjust, take some time, and then come back at it. And in comparison, European and Commonwealth countries, the deferral rate is higher. We're looking at about 7% of medical students defer. This is from the UK, from O'Shea, Patterson and Brown, and from the States, the Student Conservation Association. So why take gap time? Again, it is very individual in the choices of why. Adventure, some students want to get out and they want to see the world, they want to try other things, immerse themselves in different culture, meet new people. So they want some real world adventure. They want to enhance and increase diversity in their world and on their portfolio, on their CV. So that's going to give that to them by taking some gap time. Motivation, again, we talked about before, maybe you just need to step back a bit and reassess your motivation. But this gap time enhances that by gaining valuable life skills, increasing your resiliency, making you more qualified for jobs because you have layers of time and experience on your resume. Some students take it just for relaxation. They just need to unplug, and it removes those stressors for that period of time. And then they can come back at it with refreshed eyes and motivation that's a little bit higher and more focused. How can it reduce stress? Well, it enhances clarity and lightens mental load and aligns your priorities. So there's a lot of benefits to taking that time. When you remove the stressors, you can think more clearly. Things come to you more easily. It decreases your overall stress level. When you take a step back, you can reassess your life goals, see if you are in line with where you want to be and who you want to be in the future. Realigns your priorities, builds your resiliency, and enhances your motivation. And it helps you have the time to reevaluate and see if the program that you're in is exactly where you want to be. Wellness benefits of time. So it enhances your clarity of mind. You are free of distraction. It decreases that mental chatter. Sometimes you're just go, go, go and can't calm the body down or can't calm the mind down. This causes the body to increase the stress response, and the body doesn't operate at optimal level at that time. It enhances your spirit. So it helps you focus and clarify who you want to be and where you want to go in the world. So a little reflection time. What would be your ideal gap experience if you were able to map that out? What would it look like in length, your intention, your location? Is it, where you live currently, or do you want to experience something else? Do you want to go and fly solo? Do you want to go with a group? And what are the financial repercussions of that? Do you have the means, or do you need to seek that out? And just a quick review. So gap time helps increase relaxation, increase motivation. You've got mental clarity and mental focus is enhanced. This presentation correlates with my professional portfolio. With my mission is to increase the availability of practical stress management solutions by using mindfulness-based modalities. My vision is to advance the mindfulness-based interventions that support a holistic approach to stress management. And my values are to seek peace in all aspects of life, mentally, physically, and emotionally. It also aligns with my guiding principles to strive for a healthy mind and body. Mindfulness-based modalities are for better health overall, and self-care is a part of a whole health paradigm. And it also is congruent with my research foci, mindfulness for mental clarity and gratitude for stress reduction. So now we get to meet the panel guests. And I thank you all for coming. Here are the references that I used. And I'm going to stop this screen share. Back we go. Wonderful. Okay, Ines, you want to take the lead and just talk about some of those questions that you had given to me, and we'll go from there.
Yes, I'll grab the questions right here because I didn't have the time for. Oh, 1 second. I gotta plug in my computer into the charger.
Okay, no problem. Hi, Aiden.
I think it's good. All right.
I think he's muted, but it's not showing up. He's on
That's
his
okay.
Hello.
Aiden, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, just pop yourself on mute. Thank you. All right, Ines, whenever you're ready.
Yes. Wait. Yes. There. Okay. Okay. Which questions specifically would you like me to answer?
The panel topic discussions. What's your name? Where are you from? I can just prompt you if you can't find it.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. Okay. So I'm Ines Groenewegen, and I am from the Netherlands. My dad's from the Netherlands and my mom is from Argentina. And I grew up in the Netherlands. My college, university program I'm going to study is, it's not necessarily, it's kind of because I'm going to do, and wait, I'm not sure if you can actually hear me because I'm in the kitchen, so if someone's doing, it's a bit I don't quite know how to explain it for, you American, because it's in the Netherlands you have different levels of education, even like also in university type. So you have, university, the highest level with that's really hard might be the what was it called? Ivy League schools for you. That level of education, and then you also have a more hands-on approach of school. So the more practical education. And then you have one that's in between, that's a good mix between practical and book stuff. And those three are very different, are very clearly set in the Netherlands. And I'm going to be doing the mix between practical and book stuff. And I'll be studying I'll be studying making clothes because I'm doing a sort of a program. I wanted to do make clothes. I don't know the English term for it now that I think about it. Making clothes. Tailor. I'm sorry. Tailoring. And I wanted to do one specifically for costumes and for movie sets and theater and stuff. And for that, for the program I want to do, I need to have some experience first. So the school I'm going to go to offers a pre-course kind of, and that's 1 year. Every Saturday, I get a class. I take a class, and then I learn the basics of tailoring and of making clothes for 1 entire year, and I get homework and stuff. And then afterwards, I do the genuine education. So this is kind of a beginner's course for 1 year, and then afterwards I can start the actual study, kind of. So that's what I'm going to be doing next year. And the length of my gap time was 1 year. 1 entire year, school year. 1 year, yeah. And my culture, yes. Everyone around me pretty much supported my decision to make a gap year, because where I'm from in the Netherlands, it's pretty culturally, it's pretty accepted to take a gap year. It's from the beginning of when you start thinking about what school time you're going to do and what if you're going to do an education, like from when you're 12, around that time, it's already an option to do a gap year. It's already pretty much, you know that it's a thing to do. It's really common to talk about. So I knew from when I was around 12, I already thought like, oh, I want to do a gap year. Because I knew from the beginning that school, I wanted to take some time off, even at 12 years old. And also when you talk about it with your friends or with family, when you talk about your future education in the last year of high school, it's always a pretty common question to ask, are you going to study next year or are you going to take a gap year instead? It's like one of the two options. So it was pretty much, it was very accepted by everyone around me. Sometimes I did have some people that were like, oh, but you are going to study next year. So it's mostly accepted for 1 year, and then it's not really normal to do more than that. So that's kind of a thing, but then it was generally really accepted. Sometimes people had some questions, but that's it. And did anything positive or negative or unexpected happened? I don't know if anything unexpected happened really, because I didn't really have any expectations going into my gap year, because it was kind of a necessary thing for me to do. Even though I wanted to take a gap year since I was 12, I didn't really have that much of a choice, because my stress and just overall, I was maybe already had a burnout from high school. It was just too much, and I had to take a gap year because I just couldn't. I couldn't go anymore. I couldn't do anything anymore related to school or anything really. So it was really necessary. So I didn't really have any expectations for this year. I just wanted to relax and get everything and, be done and have absolutely nothing to do that I had to do. But it was a very positive experience overall because I was kind of cynical, or no, I'm cynical. I didn't have the most positive overlook. I thought, oh, well, it's not going to change that much. I'm still not going to have the energy to think about school or any other thing after this. I'm going to need like 2-3 years to recover from this. And I had like a very negative outlook on it, kind of. I thought that it wouldn't make that much of a difference. But I learned that even after 4 months already, I was able to think about going to Italy and taking a drawing course over there, which I wouldn't have been able to do a few months before. So that's a very positive thing. And also I learned that it was, being more open to certain experiences was very positive because I got to meet new people like Kiera, and I had a lot of awesome experiences that I didn't think I would have. And right now I'm traveling through Argentina because I also wanted to travel, and I've already, and I'm going with a friend. So a lot more stuff happened than I would have expected. So that's, I thought that I would sit down the entire year and do absolutely nothing, work a bit, but nothing to actually further myself. But that did happen. So that's definitely a surprise, I guess. And I was able to think about a thing I wanted to study next year, because I actually just came up with this like a few weeks ago. And I'm actually excited to start next year and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really motivated to look into the study more and to actually find out what I'm going to do. And that's very positive. I didn't think that would be happening so fast. So that's definitely a big thing. I'm not sure if you can, there might be a lot of noises, so I'm not sure if you can hear me right now, but if everything's fine, that's okay. Did the gap time affect your overall stress levels? Yeah, like I said, it changed entirely, because also before this gap year, when I was still in high school, it was very stressful overall. A lot of pressure was put on me just from the school, not necessarily for my home life or anything, but just from the school. And it was honestly a bit too high for me, too much. And it was very stressful, and I was suffering from pretty bad anxiety and from stress, and it was pretty bad. And then now it was to the point where I couldn't necessarily speak to people that I didn't know without freaking out. And I didn't think that my school life or that the stress in my life would affect that type of that part of my life, like talking to people, or when I went to the store, I would freak out if I had to talk to a cashier, the person at the checkout. I would freak out if something unexpected happened, and just small things like that. And also it happened in bigger stuff, but just small things like that really affected me. And I didn't think it would have anything to do with my school life, but now that in my gap year, I barely had any of that. So after the first 2 months, I haven't had like a very bad anxiety attack in a really long time. And I can talk to bus drivers and to the cashiers and to normal people just regularly on the street. If someone in the line in the store starts talking to me, I talk back. Not that I like it, but I can do it. And that's something that I wasn't able to do before, just completely couldn't do it. So it really, really changed my stress, and I'm just way more chill. And also, for my upcoming study that I'm going to do, the education, thinking about that while I was still in school was just an instant anxiety attack, just instant. So I didn't think about it. That's also why I was kind of forced to take a gap year. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And now I'm looking forward. I'm having fun finding out more about it. So it really made a huge difference in my stress. I can just do so much more stuff that I couldn't do before. Just taking a step back from that horrible environment just made a big difference. And would you re-engage in a gap year again in the future? I think I would. I think I would. If I ever feel like I'm overwhelmed again in my situation and I need to take a break, I think I would definitely just do it, because now that I've done it, I'm not afraid. I know what it's going to be like. I know that I can actually do something productive with my time. And I've learned that it does so much for me. So I'm not necessarily planning it right now when I'll be taking a gap year or something, but if it comes up and I feel the need to, then I would definitely take a gap year again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ines. Appreciate that. Okay, Kiera, you're up.
Hi, I'm Kiera Fury. I am currently a last semester senior at the University at Buffalo, and I'm a biological sciences major. So I'm in the home stretch of my undergrad education. My length of gap time was a little less than a month that was planned, but it extended out to a month for unplanned circumstances. And that was over the winter semester of this year, so winter of 2022. I went over to Florence, Italy for a study abroad program that was there. It was all very last minute because my school, because of the pandemic, they weren't able to have study abroad programs affiliated with the SUNY systems, just because they didn't want to put their students and their faculty members in a position where they could potentially get COVID overseas. And that would obviously create a lot of stress and a lot of different outcomes that they didn't know how it was going to turn out. So the SUNY system decided to detach themselves from the situation completely and say that you weren't able to go with them through the university to do study abroad program. But my study abroad advisor, I had been very adamant that I wanted to do some sort of program, whether that was a semester long program or if it was just something over the winter and summer sessions. She had reached out and said that she knew how much I wanted to do a study abroad program. And since this semester that I'm in right now is my final semester, this was either take this opportunity or you won't get to do this in your undergrad. And I don't think I would have been able to do it in my graduate studies either, just because those are such higher level courses that a lot of the universities, I don't think that they'd be able to necessarily match up to where they need to be. It just makes it a lot more confusing. So it was either this or nothing. And I decided that I wanted to take that leap. And I applied directly to a university, the Lorenzo de' Medici Institute in Florence. And I applied directly through their school in order to do a program that was there. It was all super last minute and super rushed. In about 2 weeks' time, I had enrolled in the school, paid my full deposit, paid for a plane ticket, and I was on my way on New Year's Day. So it was very stressful to begin with, just because we didn't know that this opportunity had existed before then. And then the opportunity presented itself and I was not going to miss out on that. But I'm super grateful that I did get to take that 1 month there, because that was super amazing. And it was definitely an experience that I will remember for such a long time. My gap time was supported by my family and friends. My family is a very, I don't, how do I put this? We're a well-traveled family. My mom has taken us to many different places because she wanted us to experience different cultures and just how people live different ways of life and stuff from what we are used to here. It's a very different dynamic depending on where you go and what cities you visit, what countries you visit. And she wanted us from when we were really young to be able to experience that. And I'm really thankful that she did, because I don't honestly know if I would have taken an experience like this if I hadn't been exposed to stuff like that before. It's a very big step. And especially if you're going by yourself to a country that you've never been to before, or even just traveling by yourself in general, that's not really something that I feel here in the States is recommended until you're a bit older, until you're kind of graduated with your undergrad. So maybe in like your early 20s, like maybe 22. And even then, most people don't go alone. You go with a group of friends because you just graduated and you want to celebrate because school is difficult. So it definitely would have been a lot harder for me to have taken the gap time that I did and to feel comfortable enough to do it. But my family was pretty supportive of it, even if I was a bit nervous to go over there initially. And I'm super thankful that they were, because if they weren't supportive, that just would have been another thing that would have made me very uneasy and more stressed than I needed to be. Did anything unexpected occur during your gap time? Well, a lot of positive things, because I didn't necessarily know what was going to happen while I was over there. I didn't know how it was going to be set up. I didn't know if there were like dorming options there, or if we were just kind of thrown about randomly. I had no idea what to expect. And I ended up being really, really lucky and getting 4 really great housemates, one of which is right here because we got super close. And I just got really lucky in that aspect. And that was definitely something that added to all of the positives that were there, because I ended up having a really great time. And I think it still would have been fun, but if you don't have anyone to really share it with, that would have made it a little less fun, I guess. And some unexpected things did happen at the end of it, but I blame that on the pandemic. You know, there's so many uncertainties that came with it, and I knew that there was going to be uncertainties with it. And it's fine. It was a slight blip. Everything else was great. So I don't think that affected anything for me. How did the gap time affect your stress level? It lowered my stress greatly. I was able to fully unplug from all of the things that were weighing me down back home, because how can you stay plugged in when you're in a foreign country across the ocean? It doesn't make sense. So I was able to unplug from everything, and it was weird because being in a country that I had never traveled to by myself ultimately gave me less stress than my last semester that was here, which it doesn't seem like it would make sense, but it does, and I can't explain it. It just does. So it really, surprisingly, it lowered my overall stress. So I'm grateful for that, because now I feel like I'm a more grounded person, especially in this final semester when there are a lot of different deadlines that you have to meet and a lot of different things that you need to make sure that you have. This is like the go, no go signal. If you want to graduate with your degree, this is it. So it helped so much. And I think that I was able to come back more clear-headed than I would have been able to if I had just stayed here for the winter break or if I had done pretty much anything else. So I'm really thankful for that. And the last question is, would you take gap time again in the future and why? 100%. That is without hesitancy, 100% yes. I would do gap time again. It was such a good time to be able to regroup yourself to make sure that you can really check in and see everything that you need as a person, see what your values align with, see if the path that you're going on really matches with what you want to eventually happen. So that's definitely super good. It's fantastic to grow as a person. I think that I definitely changed at least my maturity level and my responsibility level from when I had left. Just because you have to fully, how do I put this? You have to keep yourself responsible for the things that you're doing because there's nothing else. There's no one else to help you while you're over there. So if I was back home and I was running late for class, maybe I could like ask my mom if she could make me a cup of coffee to go. When you're over there, it's something completely different. You have to add that into your time. Like there's no one else there to help you with anything like that. So you have to almost step up and do everything that you have to do. And that's something that I needed to learn, I think. And I'm really glad that I did learn that. And I think that the gap time was also super good because I took it personally to travel. I know that other people take it for different things, like for work studies or if they just want to just de-stress. But I personally really liked it to travel and do new things and meet new people because it's really good to experience different cultures and to meet different people that just have been able to grow up with a different like thinking of life. I feel like in the States, it's very rushed all the time. It's a lot of running around and you need to have your schedules filled to the brim to make sure that you seem like you're a productive person. And it's just a lot of juggling that I don't think that, at least in Florence, it seems like people are able to take a step back and kind of separate work and school with hanging out with people and hanging out with family. And I think that that was something that was super important for me to see because it's able to show that you can set up those boundaries, which I feel like here, because we are on such a rushed timeline almost, we really jump over those boundaries or those boundaries are blurred a lot. And I think that going over there just kind of helped me to experience that culture in a different way because I was actually living in it. And I honestly wouldn't trade that experience for anything because I don't know. It's just, I can't explain it other than I came back a different person and I pretty much would just amount it up to having to see everything from a different perspective. And I think that that is a really cool opportunity and I would recommend anyone to have it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kira. I will go next. My gap time was a semester. This was roughly 20 years ago. So a different perspective than these gals have here. But mine was, I was in my undergraduate studies. I had one more semester that I had to finish. I did not know what I wanted to go on and focus on. I was just, as Kira said, in the States, we're just, everything just kind of rolls really fast. You get into a program and then you wonder if it really fits you or not. And I felt that. And so the opportunity came to me. I was in one of my undergraduate classes. Someone came in and was talking about an opportunity to go and work and study at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. And they said, is there anyone interested? And I think my hand went to the moon. And I asked them for more information. I had never been away from home. I had never really gone anywhere, which in the States, pretty much you stay put. There's, unless your family wants you to travel, you really don't get a chance to. So I went and I interviewed and I got the position. And so I studied for a semester over there. It was about 6 months time. And I loved it. I earned college credit while I was there. I got to work at Walt Disney World. I made amazing friends, and I had a fantastic time. And at the same time, as these ladies were saying, my stress level went down and down and down. And it wasn't that I didn't have work, you know, every couple days, and I was living away from home, but like that stress from school, I could take off and compartmentalize and put it somewhere else. And my stress just went down to a normal amount. And it was amazing. It was, I don't want to say instantaneous, but I would say within a couple weeks to a month, I wasn't worried about school anymore. I was doing what I was doing. And toward the end of the semester, you know, I knew I had to go back to school, and I sat down and I contemplated with myself, if I was in the right curriculum, did I want to do that program anymore? And I shifted gears, and I have since 20 years built on that career that I didn't know what I wanted before I went and took my gap time. So it's really interesting, the opportunity that taking time away from school affords your brain to just shift a perspective and bring you into alignment to where you need to be. I have talked about it for years with Kira's my daughter, if people don't know that yet. And I had talked about it for years because it was such an amazing experience. And I have to say, in my circle of family and friends, there is no one else that I know that had taken gap time. And I think it's so bizarre because back when I went, it wasn't as prevalent, but looking at the immense pressures that are on students at the age of 16, 17, where they're like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Talk about stress level to the moon and back. You know, how do you know who you are or what you want to be at that time? So having these research studies that I'm pulling for my my portfolio, having that backing and showing that contemporary research, contemporary society is supporting this, and having these discussions with you know, with us, with our different aspects of gap time. And you're hearing these positive stories over and over and over again. It's taking that old stigma that used to say you won't finish school, you're going to lose your motivation and all of those things. And it's you know, wiping it into the background. It no longer fits. And it was interesting, the little TikTok video that I had included in our beginning of this presentation, I happened to find yesterday, and it talked specifically about what the medical students were, the time that they were needing to unplug, and you know, there were several that took several different gap times, years and things like that, you know, and in just a couple months, you can start to feel the results. So, you know, even if students can't take gap time and they don't want to get away from their curriculum, it's, you know, spaced out as it needs to be, even taking a summer off and going overseas or traveling or whatever it is, and unplugging yourself from the situation that you feel stuck in is very powerful. So whether it's, you know, a summer break or a winter break or something like that, I, you know, wholeheartedly support it. So let me see if I answered all the questions. My gap time was 6 months. I did a spring semester. No one in my friends or family backed me at all. My mom cried. She did not want me to go and do my my gap time at Disney. I was the baby of the family. She didn't want me to go anywhere. But I went anyway because I knew that I needed to do it. There wasn't anything that was unexpected or bad that happened on the gap time. It gave me immense clarity, and I will be forever grateful for that. It opened my eyes, and from there I knew I wanted to continue to, step out of my comfort zone and do more of those things and travel. And then I, in turn, brought that to my daughters as well. Definitely lowered my stress level. And would I re-engage it in the future? I don't think I need to at this point. Once I get done with my doctorate, I will take some downtime, a gap from, doing school. I will finally be done for, my lifetime of sitting in and taking classes. But I do think that taking gap time anytime a student needs is super, super beneficial. So I am just going to turn it over to question and discussion. If Denise or Aiden want to chime in, or Kiera and Ines, you guys want to kind of chit chat on your time frame, feel free, unmute. This is just open discussion time. We'll do this for a bit, and then we'll wrap it up. Anybody have any specific questions?
I don't really have a question, but I just want to say that it's really cool that you still went on a gap year, even though nobody supported you, because that seems like the most terrifying thing about all this.
Yeah, I remember I told my parents I was doing, it was a whole interview process. Working at Disney is not an easy thing to get into.
Wow.
You have to be very, very culturally aware. You have people from around the world coming and enjoying the park, and you need to be very understanding of different cultures and appreciative of that. And so it was a very lengthy interview process, and I was grateful to have gotten it. But yeah, like I said, my mom cried. She was so sad. My friends were like, what are you going to do? We're going to miss you. And I'm like, I'm going to work, and I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to grow as a human being. So, but I think that's always kind of been in my nature. I've always gone after what most people don't. I enjoy the experience. I enjoy the growth aspect of it and the learning aspect of it. But yeah, no one back then did that. And it was very interesting. But I would do it again in a heartbeat, and, encouraged Kiera to do it. I encouraged her sister as well. She's also looking forward to doing gap time at some point in time. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. That's really nice.
Denise, Aiden, do you guys have any questions?
Here, I loved the TikTok that you showed. I'm so glad that you conveniently found it yesterday.
Yeah.
But it'll be so interesting, because I noticed that, all the students were people of color. So it'd be cool to find one that actually advocates that, hey, white people do this too,
Yeah.
continue to kind of get rid of that stereotype, because then, looking at that, it's like, okay, are people of color more prone to taking gap years? Does that lead to like those gaps in education? But I loved it so much.
Yeah, it's I have seen a bunch that just happen to kind of pop on my feed. But yeah, it's across the board, and I don't think it's any specific demographic that takes it more or less. That just happened to be the video that came up on that day. But yeah, it's in the States, it's definitely not as well known or supported, with Ines, and her culture is just more accepting of it. And I hope that in the States that is eventually where it leads itself. And I've been my whole time that I've been doing my doctorate, this year and a half, almost 2 years, really I've been focusing on the medical student population. But like I said before, this goes across all programs. It does not have to specifically fit with that. That just aligned with my portfolio.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love how your panel, you know, the three of you speaking, there's the difference in age gap because it's like it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter the cultural background.
Yeah.
And gap year is very much, it should be supported. And I love that you supported your daughters. Because like you said, you didn't have that support. So it's something where we were talking before. I was like, yeah, if my daughters want to take that gap year and go travel the world, yes, absolutely. Get that cultural experience you're not going to get from our little town.
Right.
And learn how other countries are, you know, so much better than the United States.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn out there, and that's, you know, people get complacent and they're, you know, they're in the daily grind and they're with their same friends and this and that and the other, and they get comfortable. And to step out of that comfort zone takes that, it takes a jump, you know, that element of fear is there. But if you can look beyond that, you know, the rewards are right on the other side. You have to allow yourself to take the time. So yeah. Kira, do you have something you want to say?
I just wanted to point out also, I feel like it has to do with like the school that you either had in like high school or the school that you go to in college too, because in my high school, I believe I am one of two people that have done some sort of gap year or semester abroad or anything, at least to my knowledge. And because I went to a small high school, everyone knows everyone, so you get all the gossip. But it was a little bit different, I guess, in a public university because they didn't actively say that you could take these opportunities abroad for study abroad specifically. You had to physically go and you had to physically go to the office in order to get the information. It wasn't something that was very widely talked about necessarily, which I found very weird. And it was like you almost had to fight for information in order to get it. And it was, I think that it just depends on what university you're going to. Like Rhiannon, my little sister, she's going to a private university where they encourage the gap year. But for a public university that I've gone to, I've never heard them encourage that stuff. So it's just a little bit.
Yeah, her program, it's actually built into the program curriculum. I can't remember in what year it is or what semester, but it's physically built in there. She can't get around it. And she's excited anyway. That's one of the reasons she chose to go there, because it was mandatory. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's becoming more apparent that students need to take some time. And I think once health promotion and wellness and those type of portions of the school really get involved, then they will come and they will start talking with the students and start having kind of open conversations like this where gap time can be introduced and you know, the opportunities that are out there, you know, can be presented so the students even know what's going on. You know, like Kira said, she had to really seek this out constantly. And when COVID hit, she had 3 or 4 different things that all fell apart because of, you know, that moment in time, and the opportunities were gone. So she was adamant on keeping up with what was going on in her opportunities. But I think with the backing of schools, there's some really big universities. Harvard's one that is backing. You can, for medical students, you can get in and be accepted and instantly defer and say that you are taking your gap time, and they totally allow it. Tuition is still going, and you just continue on right afterward. So you know, that backing is coming. It's come a long way in the 20 years, like I said, from my time to what these ladies were talking about. But I think it's going to keep getting even better. So the opportunities will grow, which is wonderful. Anybody else? Anything else to say? Questions?
It's really interesting because, well, in the Netherlands, all of the universities, so I don't know, the universities, that's the higher education, the highest part, it's very common to have a semester abroad, or yeah, sometimes some people do an entire year, some people do different people, but a lot of universities offer that, and it's very promoted to go and spend some time abroad, still studying the subject and do stuff, but also be in a different country. For example, my brother is studying business something in the Netherlands. He's in his second year. Next year, in this third year, he's going to take a semester in Milan, so in Italy. That's yeah. And then and it was a whole thing. Like everybody in the third year could apply. You could choose different countries. You had different countries. Some people went to Singapore and Spain and basically anywhere in the world. And then it was hard to get into the program because so many people wanted to go abroad that it was pretty hard to get in, and even harder to get into the country you wanted to go. The semester, you had to like do it top five of countries you wanted to go to, and then if you had your first pick, that was very difficult because so many people wanted to do this program. So that's yeah, it's really interesting to hear that in the US it's really not that common, whereas in the Netherlands I hear everywhere it's just very normal. It's just very talked about. Just, you know, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this study, and then in my second or third year I'm thinking about spending a semester abroad, or just a gap year in general. It's really interesting to hear the difference between the two countries.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it all comes with, just more of this education and more of the awareness being brought about, that is going to help the US kind of come out of its shell and support some of those different opportunities for the students. So yeah, I appreciate everyone's time here bringing this information out. Does anybody have any last questions or things they want to say?
I was just wondering if you think that there is a fine balance between how long your gap year is and whether or not it's still a viable option to go into a more difficult major such as medical school or becoming a lawyer. Because I think in most societies, especially America, is stigmatized to the point where taking a gap year is overall just not recommended at all, even taking a couple months to a year, where I think that amount of time is perfectly fine, even if you're still pursuing a higher major.
Yeah, Aiden, so from the research that I have found, it's I'm mainly looking at medical students, a little bit into law, because again, high rate of stress with those folks as well. But the information that I'm finding is that overseas it is way more accepted and taken as part of, this is the normal, what we do. We take a gap time and then we get back into our studies. And in the States, it is getting better and being more supported because the universities are allowing you to be accepted into the program and defer. Oftentimes in the States, the way the curriculum is set up, you're doing X number of years, these number of semesters, and it's continuous. And if you take a time out, you blip back to the front or you lose your place in the program. That's how it has normally been. What is happening is a lot of these universities, like I said, Harvard was a big one, is allowing the students to get in and then defer time out, or get in, start for a while, defer, and not lose where they are in their curriculum, but rather take that opportunity away and then come back to the studies without penalty. So I think it's coming from each specific university and how they look at defer time and if they're supportive of that or not. So that's a conversation that you can have with a program director, someone that helps you along with your program of study, to say, hey, I think I'm at the time I need to take, this gap. How can we defer that and make that happen? So to your question, Aiden, I think it is getting better. in the States, it has a long way to come. If, you know, doing presentations such as this and things like that in this type of platform, I would love to see more people such as myself supporting this and promoting it, and maybe going and talking to the universities to maybe get that you know, back into their wheelhouse of saying, okay, these students need to take this time, remove that stigma and allow them to carry on. So it just totally depends on the college you go to and where you are in your curriculum. Thanks for the question. All right, anybody else? Any questions? All right, well, I'm gonna hit the stop record